It's good to be with you. I have scripted this just a bit, just so that I hopefully stay a little tight on time, because I got a lot that I'd love to share. But let me launch in. A couple months ago now, I guess it was back in early February, I was at Westside Church in Vancouver for Multiply. Some of you have heard about that. And during that event, I was having coffee, as we love to do, and was chatting with an individual, another pastor, not Mennonite Brethren, but he comes from the church, The Village, which is a really fast-growing Baptist church in Surrey, British Columbia. And over coffee, we got chatting a little bit. He knows a little bit what I do. And he looked me in the eye and he said, "So Ed, why do you do what you do?" And I was a little bit put off, kind of caught off guard and kind of pulled back a little bit. And so I attempted to kind of give hopefully a helpful response of why I'm doing this conference piece right now in my life. And as I tried to kind of go into the rationale for why I believe that it's important that we have this group of churches working together, he said, no, Ed, I get what you're saying, I hear all that stuff, but honestly, what's the point? Why do we have denominations anyways? I don't get it. And essentially he was saying, so what? And I think that's a fair question. Because I know that many of you, whether you say it verbally or you just think it, that question goes around in many of your minds. What's the value of being a part of ABMB? Isn't it actually a relic of the past? Would it not be simply better to focus on the local church? And isn't that where the real action is happening? So this morning I want to address that question. I'll try not to beat around the bush, but I want to kind of just talk straight with you. Why do we bother? Why are you even gathered here this weekend? So what? Well, I could answer a variety of ways. So what? I could point you to some technical or tactical realities. Your conference, like all the other ones across this country, are actually the governing body that provide pastors with their credentials, and that gives the legal links so that they can actually get a marriage license. You actually can't do that alone. More importantly, though, theologically, by being this family of churches, we have, and within our denomination, we have a confession of faith that actually delineates what it means to be Mennonite Brethren. So what? I could point you to historical realities. We actually have a pretty amazing history if you should ever choose to unpack it. Obviously, you can go way back 2,000 years to the beginning of the church, and we're a part of that. Yay, Jesus. But there are other additional real cool watershed moments in our own story. You go back to 1525, and we were a counter-revolutionary movement. In 1860, there was a renewal that took place in these Mennonite communities that propelled the Mennonite Brethren Church into existence. So what? I could point you to some financial realities. Many of our churches, and we're seated right now, I'm standing, you're seated in the place where, because we work together as and with CCMBC, this Eritrean church even can be here. Because there's a loan option for our church. And that's fantastic. Personally, some of you as pastors, some of you may not even know this, but you actually have the option to have your mortgage, home mortgage, with the Canadian Conference. And I know personally, as a graduating seminary student, with the only thing I had to my name was debt, because of our national working together, I was able to get into a home. So what? I could point you to all kinds of collaborative activities and realities that take place. We heard some amazing stories of working together last night. Just one that kind of struck me again was your camp. I know in Ontario we have a camp. It's significant in the engagement that we have of churches and are working together. And regularly, In the fall, in the winter, we have baptisms in our churches all over Ontario, and I'm guessing it's probably true here in Alberta, and people share stories of coming to Christ or their leadership development at our camp, working together. I could point you to support realities. Part of my role, and I know it's part of Paul's role, is to come alongside your churches and particularly your pastors. A year ago, just after Easter, and I can still remember the place, the moment, and the time when one of our pastors in Ontario reached across the table, looked me in the eye, and told me that he had been in an extramarital affair for the last year. And immediately, I was engaged with him, his family, and his church in a story I'd rather not have to experience. And God has been good in that. I sit and have many coffees. I drink probably too much coffee. But you have confidential conversations with pastors as they struggle. Those of you who are pastors, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are not, you need to understand and appreciate the weight that your leaders often carry. And they'll often share it with Paul and myself. How do we navigate the situation we're in? So what? I could point you to international realities, and there's a lot of stuff. We could talk about what MB Mission is doing, and we could give all kinds of stories. But I think it was February, I was in BC for another set of meetings, and there I was with some leaders from ICOM. That's our international community of MBs. Did you know that we're part of 26 member countries that are serving together across this globe? And while we were together, we heard some amazing stories of what God is doing in Europe and in South America. Did you know that you are part of a church planting explosion that is happening on the banks of the Amazon right now? That's part of our family. I could point you to all kinds of other realities, all of which are real, all of which matter. However, I also know that for many of you, that's actually insufficient. It doesn't actually convince us about the so what. You see, the cultural context in which we live and the relentless societal pull towards autonomy, independence, and siloing is just too strong. The tug is always away from together and towards isolation. There are other thriving networks that draw your interest and engagement, and that's fantastic. There are many city-focused partnerships, probably here in Edmonton and in Calgary and other places, that you engage in that should be applauded and supported. And within a long-standing family like our MBs, in Ontario, we just had our 87th convention. I don't know how many years it is here. Does anybody know offhand? It's probably more than 10. It's probably pretty close, 70 or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. In that long story, I'm guaranteed, I know in our reality, there's lots of sad parts. Mistakes have been made. Trust has been broken. And we're far from perfect. One of the things that I've been witnessing and realizing in very tangible ways in the last couple of years is that trust is incredibly fragile. It just takes one rumor to sour years of partnership and relationship. Did you hear what he preached on? Do you know what they're starting to do over in that church? Can you believe what I just heard about? We know that the enemy is relentless in souring our trust. Mistrust, sadly, is our human default. And the crazy thing is, as leaders, we know it. And we even know what to do about it. Like, go to the source, get the real information, have the hard conversations. But often we simply don't. I've been struck by the words again from the Apostle Paul. In the book to the Romans, and again I'm using the translation of the Message, and we can throw this up behind me if it's there. Those of you who are strong, probably most of you would put your hand up, most days maybe, and able in the faith, need to step in and lend a hand to those who falter. And not just do what is convenient for us. Strength is for service, not status. Each one of us need to look after the good of the people around us, asking ourselves, how can I help? That's exactly what Jesus did. He didn't make it easy for himself by avoiding people's troubles, but he waded right in and helped out. I took on the troubles of the troubled is the way Scripture puts it. May our dependably steady and warmly personal God develop maturity in you so that you get along with each other, as well as Jesus gets along with all of us. Then we'll all be a choir, not our voices only, but our very lives singing in harmony in a stunning anthem to the God and Father of our Master Jesus. So reach out and welcome one another to God's glory. Jesus did it. Now you do it. Romans 15. God is calling us to a mature response, not one that is self-focused, isolated, or siloed, or independent. Rather one of team, a mature, Christ-honoring, servant leadership response. If you were really to push me on the value of so what of our denomination, answering that question, I consistently come back to the simple notion of team. I fervently, passionately believe that we are better together. In a team that strives for health and vitality, we can do more, we can reach higher heights, we can accomplish more kingdom gain than on our own, no matter how large or how important we think we become. So all of you are part of a team, the ABMB team. So what does that look like? I can give you a couple stories out of Ontario, and I'm sure there's many that you would have here as well. At our convention, similar to yours, just a few weeks ago, we met in a building similar to this one. It's only the second Indo-Canadian facility that is a Christ-honoring church in all of Canada. We met there for the very first event held in their facility. Jim Davidson, who was up at the front here yesterday, was part of that story. It's an amazing, I could go on about that story. God is doing some amazing things. When Vishal and Rafika, the pastor couple in that church, when they reach out to Sri Lankans and Indians and Pakistani people and they come to Christ, we all succeed. We had 2 churches last year who reached their 50th anniversary. And when I was at both of those contexts and was able to hear and just their story of the faithfulness that God has had for them over many ups and downs, and then to see the vitality and the passion and the mission that they still have moving forward, I say, we all succeed. In Toronto, we have a thing called the Jesus Network in Thorncliffe Park. And this past Christmas, they had a service where 120 individuals came. Now you need to understand, that's 100 and probably 15 who are formerly or still Muslims. And when they gather, some of them coming to Christ, some not yet, having said yes to Jesus, in that kind of a fashion, we all succeed. When God decides to bring together some gifted leaders with a heart for indigenous ministries, and we begin to see the emergence of churches in our Northern Ontario region, and we may very well shortly be credentialing our first First Nations leader in Ontario, I say we all succeed. When a country church embarks on a total church retrofit so that they can launch a Christian-focused daycare center in their community, this is in Simcoe, and within the first 2 weeks, they saw some of those parents coming on Sunday morning and coming to Christ, I say, we all succeed. When God calls a couple from Australia, and this is a crazy story, to come to Canada to minister, they don't know with who or where or anything like that. And in 2 weeks from now, I can commission them because they've been called and appointed to a small fledgling church just outside of Ottawa. I say we all succeed. When leaders feel supported and empowered to continue, when the task and issues seem overwhelming and it would be easier to quit, we all succeed. I'm sure Paul can give many examples of the stories of how God is just doing such amazing things here in Alberta. We've already heard so many. My answer to the question of so what is simple. For me, it's all about a team of teams on mission. We are better together. As MBs here in Alberta, similar to in Ontario, with overwhelming, vast mission fields at our doorsteps, with so much diversity and pressures on every side, we are stronger and more dynamic when we engage in mission together. Whether you realize it, embrace it, choose to lean into it, or own it, we all have the privilege to say we instead of I. We together are about the missional activity of King Jesus. One last scripture from Philippians. You know this passage, but again I read it from the Message because it just seems to grab me. If you've got anything at all out of following Christ, if his love has made any difference in your life, if being in a community of the Spirit means anything to you, if you have a heart, if you care, then do me a favor. Agree with each other. Love each other. Be deep-spirited friends. Don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet-talk your way to the top. Put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. Do everything readily and cheerfully. No bickering, no second-guessing allowed. Go out into the world uncorrupted, a breath of fresh air in this squalid and polluted society. Provide people with a glimpse of the good living and of the living God. Carry the light-giving message into the night so that I'll have good cause to be proud of you on the day that Christ returns. You'll be living proof that I didn't go to all this work for nothing. You hear Paul's passion? I think he would ask us the same question. So what? Will you choose to lean in? Will you choose to be a team player? Will you choose to sacrifice? I hope you do. I think it's better together. God bless you all.